Hi, everybody. Welcome to the It Hurts to Mom podcast. I'm Lauren Rose, and today's guest is Jenna Hodge. Jenna is a productivity and health coach who teaches mom how to create lifestyle habits to take care of themselves and their children. So, Jenna, let's just start at the top. Let's talk about time. So, a lot of us moms feel like we just don't have enough time to do it all, to parent, to clean the house, to work outside the home, to make dinner, and even throw in a little bit of self-care. Is that true? Do we just not have the time?
Yes and no. I feel like as moms, just being a mom in general obviously amps up the challenges we have, makes
Mhm.
things harder, but I don't believe that things are impossible. Um, and it may look impossible, but there's ways to reprioritize, rework, reorganize, like move things around, do things differently than you either want or expected to make all those things happen. And also, you're not going to be able to do everything all at once because, yes, that is impossible, whether you have kids or not. But you can do everything, just not all at the same time. So I think
Right.
realizing that will help a lot in the beginning to figure out, like, oh, okay, here's where I start, you know?
Yeah, and I love that. I've heard that before. Yes, you can do everything you want, just not all at the same time.
Hmm.
I think that's brilliant.
Hmm.
So what are some of the biggest time wasters that you see moms engaging in?
Biggest time wasters, I would say, let's back up a step in the fact that if you don't have a plan in place first, um, beforehand, then yes, you'll wind up wasting time because you won't already have that structure. But when you have kids around in general, that's already an added distraction. So it's harder to think clearly to make a plan, first of all, with your kids around.
Yeah.
So I advise moms to do that either first thing in the morning when your kids aren't around and they're still asleep, or when they're away from the kids and they're at school, somebody else is watching them, whatever, or at night after they've gone to bed before you go to bed, sometime where you have like that time to sit down and focus and think and structure out your day, because things are always going to go crazy and different and out of your control sometimes with kids around and just life in general. But if you already have that structure and that baseline to work with, if things don't go awry, then that actually works out. And you're much more likely to be productive if you've written it down, if you've thought it through ahead of time, if you've already got that structure in place, versus just not have anything, but your day's like wide open, then you're
Mhm.
not as productive that way because you haven't really thought out the big picture. You haven't put things where they're supposed to go. And so then when you have this time, you're just sitting here thinking, oh, what should I do? And then you wind up wasting all that time trying to figure out what could I do, and time's up. So I feel like once you have that plan in place, or like I said, just a basic structure, routine, whatever it is, ideas at least, or goals,
Mhm.
and try not to go too crazy because, like I said, you can't do it all at once. But, just like start with three things. What are the three things you want to get done tomorrow? And figure out, okay, I would like to get these three things done. Let's try to get them done at these times of the day, to allocate for things to come up and shift. So you still have opportunities throughout the day to get those things done. So you don't feel like you're like always running behind, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that sounds kind of like the story of my days. So I can't work because of my chronic pain issues, and so
Mhm.
my days pretty much are wide open after I drop my daughter off and before I have to go get her. Unless I've got an appointment, my day is free. So what
Mhm.
do? I write down 100 things that I want to do, and then
Yeah.
I just get so overwhelmed. Like, where do I even start? And I
Mhm.
spend most of my day like freaking out. Like, I don't know where to start. There's too much to do. I get overwhelmed, and I end up doing nothing or practically
Mhm.
nothing.
Mhm.
So yeah, I totally get that. Definitely can work on that. Um, so, what are some ways that we can balance motherhood with everything else in our lives?
Um, well, first off, realizing that motherhood is like a part of you, but it isn't all of
Mhm.
you. It isn't your identity. You are a human being prior to being a mom, and you're still that human being after being a mom. It's just an added responsibility and an added blessing into your life. So yes, it is a all-encompassing one for a while they're really young and need you. But you still can't quote unquote let yourself go, not just physically, but in the sense of you as a human, you as a person.
Mhm.
Um, And if you start that early on and figure out, what are your passions? What do you like to do? What lights you up? Because the day-to-day stuff is always going to be there. And then out on the childhood stuff is always going to be there. And even when the kids grow up, you're still going to have to take care of the house and cook. Like, life stuff is always going to be there. But if you're not living life and enjoying it, you're just existing, then it's add motherhood on top of that, just life in general. And that's going to really, that puts a lot of moms down into sometimes depression, just going through the motions and then wondering why they're not happy.
Right. So speaking of depression, when a mom has depression, like I do, even including postpartum depression, or is
Mhm.
fatigued, like I frequently am, or is in pain, like I always am, how can she motivate herself to be productive?
Hmm. Well, sometimes motivation doesn't come till after you've already started it. You can't like wait for motivation to start doing something. Unfortunately, most of the time it doesn't happen that way. It would be nice if it did.
Yeah.
Um, it does help, and it depends on how far deep you are into it. But I feel like it can help to watch the people around you or follow on social media or whatever that are like one step ahead of you. Maybe not 10 steps so that you feel like that's not attainable and then you get even more
Mhm.
depressed, but just enough to get you inspired, to say like, okay, that's kind of a visual representation of what I want, to remind you, like as you keep seeing that, like a vision board kind of, like that's what I want. And the more you're reminded of your goals, then the motivation will be like, okay, yeah, why am I doing this? Oh yeah, I want that. Remind yourself, like, what am I trying to attain? What am I trying to reach? Where do I want my life to go? I obviously don't like where I'm at. So instead of
Mhm.
just sitting in it and dwelling on that, it's not going to change if you don't do something. So reminding yourself of that, like, okay, nothing's going to get better if I don't decide to do something different. Because as adults, one, and moms, because we're adults, nobody's going to do it for us. Like, yeah,
Mhm.
we're expected to do everything for our kids, but nobody's going to take care of us because we're expected to do that ourselves. Do we? Not enough, I don't believe. We can, but a lot of moms don't. And I feel like part of it's society telling us that because we're moms, we should just accept our reality of being a mom, in the sense that nothing's ever going to be different or be better. And one, that's really depressing and negative, and two, that's false. I mean, if you
Mhm.
want to believe that and you truly don't do anything, that could be a possibility. But if you don't ever like reframe that mindset of, okay, yeah, accept where you're at, the reality. What's your reality? Like, how many kids do you have? What's your lifestyle like? What's your health like all these things. Like, what's the facts? Just facts. Take emotion out of it. What's the facts? And then see, okay, that's where I'm at right now. Recognize it's a season. Most things in life are not permanent. So, okay, here's the season I'm in now. And what can I control in the season? Like, let's not let the season control me, but what in the season, what can I
Mhm.
find that I can control? And then take back that responsibility and that power. And I think that will lead you to the motivation, because you will feel empowered and you'll feel more in control. And then once you
Mhm.
start doing those things, then it becomes motivating because you're seeing results and you feel, our feelings dictate a lot of the things we do. So if we
Right.
start to feel a certain way emotionally, we'll start continuing those habits. It's like a dopamine effect that make us feel
Mhm.
good, you know?
Totally. So on your social media, I love your focus on hashtag mom wins instead of the typical hashtag mom fails. What are
Mhm.
some of the small wins that we should be celebrating each day?
Um, I mean, it can be so little, but I mean, I feel like anytime you do something that you feel confident in, um, we as a mom, especially, because I feel like a lot of people in society can make us second guess things we shouldn't be second guessing when we have a mom gut there
Mm.
for a reason. And like I said, any decision we make in our parenting that we are proud of, we feel good about, like, appreciate that moment. Like, give yourself some credit for all the hard work you've done. Number one, so far, just by bringing a human into the world. And any of those moments throughout the day where your child hugs you randomly,
Mm.
tells you they love you randomly, like those kind of little moments where you just like huh? Like, you didn't do anything to provoke that, you didn't ask for it. I mean, those can like speak volumes. Like, if you really just take a second to like step back and look at it after that moment happens and really enjoy it
Yeah.
and appreciate it for what it is, it can be like, wow, that's affirming to know
Hmm.
that you're doing a good job, because your kid's not going to be able to like give you all that affirmation that you really want from adults, you know, but their actions speak way louder than any adults could say to you, if that makes sense. So I
Hmm.
feel like just recognizing those little moments throughout the day that they give you can be really encouraging, and then just like cling to those. And like I said, any um because yeah, there's gonna be decisions you make in parenting that you're like, man, I shouldn't have done that, or you even second guess yourself or whatever. But then there's gonna be some that you look back on and you're like, you know what, I'm glad we did this, and or I'm glad I chose to do this, and then just like stick to it, and appreciate, like, let yourself be proud of you, if that makes sense.
No, I think that's awesome. So, I and most of my guests live with chronic pain. I know you've dealt with arthritis in your spine, degenerative disc disease. I've got both of those also. How have those affected your life, and how do you parent when you're in pain?
Um, so I thankfully am not in a lot of pain from mine. I actually have like
Good.
weird nerve symptoms in my leg.
Mm.
Um, where where when I first found out I had this, before I found out, I thought I had MS because it was one
Oh.
sided and my leg would get significantly weaker as the day went on.
Mm.
And my friend's mom has MS, so then I was doing all this research and I'm like, it happens in women and it's one sided and
Mhm.
like all this stuff. Like, I was having all these symptoms. I was like, I think I have MS. Like, I was freaking out.
Yeah.
And then, long story short, found out not that I have herniated discs, and then
Ok.
um, got more in depth details, and it's herniated and bulging disc, arthritis in my spine, and degenerative disc disease. It's like all mild, but it has progressed a little bit in the past few years. So
Mhm.
since then, I've also had a third kid, so that probably had something to do with it. Which sucks. And like I said, I'm not in a pain often, but I do have like, there are days where my leg is just like kind of done, and it's a weird feeling and it's frustrating.
Mhm.
In that sense of like the fatigue. Thankfully I'm married and have a supportive husband, so as soon as he gets home I let him know, but he does work
Yeah.
late. So it does suck when he's not at home yet and I'm having to deal with that, especially since my kids are still little, and they're
Mhm.
boys, and they're little but big, and they want me to hold them, and it's like I try my best to especially my older ones, and I'm like, come on, y'all don't need me to hold you anymore. But they like that
Mhm.
like physical touch. So I'm like, okay, why don't I sit
Yeah.
down? Y'all sit on my lap. That way, like,
Yeah.
all the weight is not putting pressure on my spine. My youngest is 18 months, so I have to hold him a lot. But I try my best to I switch sides so that I'm not catering to that one side all the time and evening things out in my muscles, because I have atrophy a little bit in my spine because of that. Like I said, I try to sit down when I can with him, try to be
Mhm.
careful of how I lift so that I'm bracing it in my core and not my back. Um, just be more mindful of that throughout the day to day. And like I said, I'm really, really aware of my own body. I've kind of self diagnosed myself a lot of things before doctors would listen to me, and then
Mm.
got proven that I was right by the doctors. So I think
Yeah.
just being very in tune with my own body and learning a lot. I do a lot of research. I like to be active, and I want to continue that healthy lifestyle as long as I can. And I'm not going to let mine's not a disability, but I'm not going to let my injury stop me from living. I'm only 28, so I have three boys already, and like I want to live a healthy, strong lifestyle as long as I can for them. I'm going to do my best to avoid back surgery, anything else. We don't even know what causes this for me, so I can't do that. I can't backtrack. It is what it is. But I'm just going to do my best to keep myself healthy to prevent it from getting worse. And then, um, like I said, listen to my body when I need to. When I need to take breaks,
Mhm.
like I said, if I feel like something's acting up, I sit down. I take breaks when I need to. When my leg's like done and my husband's at home, yeah, I sit on the couch, and because I know I need to let it calm down. There's inflammation, and that's what causes
Mhm.
the nerve stuff. So, like I said, I think listening to your body, but also not. I don't use mine as a crutch, but mine's also not super serious yet. So I'm trying to prevent it from getting to that, if that makes sense. And I know everybody's situation is different, and some are way more severe than mine, but Um, yeah, I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah, it does. And one of the things that you touched on at the beginning when you're talking about how your boys like the physical touch, 'cause so does my
Mhm.
daughter. She's 9, and
Mm,
she also likes to play dolls on the floor. And
mhm.
so I modify what we do. So,
Modify, that's
sometimes I
mhm.
can't get on the floor and play with her. So we might play on the bed. I might
Yeah,
even have to lie down while we're playing Barbie dolls.
right.
And she's gotten, and she doesn't care. She's gotten so
Yeah,
used to it. All she wants is me to play with her,
the
to
time.
have
Yeah.
the time, that
Yes.
attention, that love. So
Mhm.
yeah, definitely. And then when I start to hurt, my hips hurt or my back's hurting too bad, I'm like, baby, I gotta stop in a minute, or I gotta switch positions, or I have to lie down or whatever. Um,
Mhm.
so she's really good about that. So I have my own opinion of this, but I want to hear yours. How often do you think we should be engaging in some type of self care?
Every day.
That's what I think
Every
too.
day.
Yeah.
Every day. And wait, but define self-care. Like, are you saying, like, taking a shower? Are we saying, like, doing something that we want to do but isn't, like, basic hygiene, if that makes sense?
Yeah. Well,
Or both?
past ba- past basic hygiene, just something
Yeah.
that brings you joy. Just
Yeah.
just
No, yeah,
for
my
a
answer's still the
few
same.
minutes.
Yep.
Yeah,
Every Mhm.
I agree, because I feel
Yep.
like if we're not doing it now, we're, we're underwater, right? And if we wait to take care of ourselves, if we wait to take that breath till we can't
Mhm.
take it anymore, we're about to completely
Mhm.
die. We're coming
Mhm.
up for air. We're gasping and we're going back down. We're still in survival mode. We're not
Yeah.
calm. We're not relaxed. So yeah, we need to be doing it, hopefully on a daily basis. There's going to be some days where it just isn't going to happen, but it definitely
Right.
needs to be part of our routine and part of our daily habits.
Yes, I agree.
So I know you've noticed this because it's a big issue these days, especially with social media and with TV. There's a lot of mom comparison. I
Mm.
totally do it. I think, oh my gosh, she's just doing this mom thing way better than I can. Oh, how can she possibly, make cookies and do all these other things? Why do you think there's so much comparison among moms?
Um, I think part of it's insecurity. I mean, that's with when you compare yourself to anybody else, it's you
Mm,
don't feel good about something in your life. Like we compare people that have more money than us. I want what
hmm
they have because I don't like where I'm at. We compare people, we like their body better because you don't like your own.
hmm
We think their motherhood is perfect and they never yell at their kids because we hate the way we're parenting our children and the way we act towards our kids. So really it's just a self reflection of basically kind of the opposite of what we got, which
mm,
sounds can be really like a harsh truth, but I mean, why else would we compare? I guess that's one reason. I'm not saying that's all the time, but
yeah.
else I guess would we compare if like we were confident where we were or content. Not could
hmm
yeah, yeah, like if we were satisfied with things, we would have no need to compare. But I think it's good to learn from others, both good and bad.
hmm
I think it is to watch good to watch others one to learn from in the sense of like being inspirations. Like I said, the people a couple of steps ahead of you, not like 20 steps. It can be
hmm
great to have goals to get there and it's possible to get there, but you need to follow and watch some people below that, a little bit closer
hmm
to you because that's more attainable, you know. You'll feel a lot less insecure where you are, feel a lot less sad or negative or depressed about where you are if you're following
hmm
someone just a few steps, even just one step ahead of you. Because you're like, that doesn't seem so far away from where I'm at. I actually might can do that. Maybe they can help me.
Right.
Versus looking at someone 20 steps ahead and be like, man, I wish I had their life. Like then you're almost resenting them and they didn't do,
Yeah.
and you don't know where they're I guarantee you they have at least one category that they also feel the same way. And they're looking
hmm
at some like for example, I follow some people that are doing quite well financially, but they're struggling with infertility. I have
hmm
3 boys that were surprises.
hmm
So yeah, they're they have way more money than I have. But I also know they're struggling in another area that I'm not. So it's
Right.
like I said, it's you can apply it to anything. It's not just motherhood. But yes, as moms, also we a lot of us being if you're a stay at home mom, we have time, quote unquote, to see all this stuff. We're not as like we're not as in the world you know,
Mhm.
like if you're not out there working or doing whatever, being in school, whatever, like if you're stuck at home all day and you're on your phone a lot, like you're absorbing it a lot more often. So it's easier, I feel like, and quicker to fall into that trap when it's like all you see, especially if you're not interacting with people physically in your world,
Mhm.
like if you don't have a circle or a community, then everything you're seeing is online and most of it's people you don't even know. Yeah.
Yeah, those are all great points. I think the insecurity is definitely why I compare myself to other moms, 'cause I'm like, well, why can't I do as many things as they can do, even though I've got my own physical challenges. And
Mhm.
yeah, your second point, we definitely need to be careful of the stories we tell ourselves about other people and other people's lives. Because from what I hear, some of these perfect Instagram family pictures, there was a lot of screaming and crying and, just to get this one, perfect picture. It wasn't
Mhm.
a happy day like they want it to look like. So,
And nobody
we
wants to.
just, yeah, true. So, what do you think being a successful mom actually looks like?
Um,
Like, how do we know when we're doing it well?
I would say when your kids are physically healthy, um, they feel safe and loved, and then when you are also physically healthy and emotionally healthy as well, because it's got to be both. Like if you're not healthy, both in both categories, it doesn't have to mean like you've got a rocking body. I mean like healthy on the inside,
Right,
and emotionally too. Um, if you aren't taking care of you as a whole, that really affects your whole family, especially your kids. And
right.
if you're not taking care of your children, well, obviously that's your job, like so
Mm.
if they're not healthy overall too, if they're not in a safe and loved environment, and if their physical health's not being cared for, then that's also obviously detrimental as well. So if all those things
Right,
are, then I feel like, yeah, you don't need to get into focus on the stuff that doesn't really matter. I mean, like they're good things, but don't hone in on the, oh, I don't make crafts with my kids. Oh, I must be a bad mom. Or I don't do,
hmm,
like those kind of things. It's like, okay, are your kids healthy, safe, and loved? That's what matters. And are you healthy and safe and loved? You're loving yourself. You know what I'm saying? If you got all that, then you're doing all you need to do.
I think that's perfectly said and absolutely spot on.
Thank you. I didn't think about this ahead of time. I'm just spewing this out.
No, that's great. So, where can we get more information about you and about what you do?
I started out blogging, so that's on purposeintended.com, all about my motherhood journey and everything. And then I branched out into coaching. So my coaching page is on there, where I coach moms on basically the challenges they face in motherhood. Most of the time, it's within the first few years of motherhood because that's what I'm familiar with. I had 3 kids in 4 years. My oldest is 5 now, so I'm very much still in those throes of
Hmm.
toddlerhood and everything. And babies is not that far away from my memory.
Yeah.
Um, and I dealt with like the postpartum depression, anxiety terribly, and just had a very rough transition in motherhood. So I relate and resonate with moms in that season. And I help them with basically any of their kid questions that they have. Like I said, it's all very fresh for me. And
Yeah.
I'm confident in all these decisions now on parenting and how to care for my kids. I know what to do. My kids are on a good sleep routine and feeding schedule and all that. And like they're thriving, and then also helping the mom with taking care of herself, like I've
Hmm.
said before. So like that looks different for everybody, but we all need to do it. It's very important. Not just your physical body, your mental and emotional state as well. And then finding time to do the things you love. Because like I said, you've got to live your life and your kids are watching you. You're a model for them. Like what do you want to teach them what a mom looks like? You know? Um,
Absolutely.
so yeah, so I'm on Instagram at Purpose Intended as well. TikTok, I'm still playing around with. You can follow me there, but I just post every now and then. And then I'm on Facebook at Jenna Hodge. So
Okay, awesome. And you can find me at ithurtstomom.com and at ithurtstomom on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. I'd also love to hear from you via email at ithurtstomom@gmail.com. Hope everybody has a blessed day.